I'm Maureen Fan. I'm CEO, co-founder of Baobab Studios, a VR animation studio, and I'm here in Turin, Italy, at the VIEW conference. Well, I've wanted to do animation my entire career. I started off majoring in computer science, art, and psychology because that's what I want to do. But my tiger mom told me that I'd be poor and destitute if I went into the animation industry. So instead went to eBay as a UI designer. But the entire time I was trying to find a way to get back into animation. So even going to business school, I wanted to go to art school for my MFA instead, but the deadlines had passed. So I missed out my opportunity there as well. But finally, during business school, I took an internship at Pixar, working on Toy Story 3, and it was a dream come true, being able to be at Pixar. At the same time, the business model didn't make as much sense to me, the film model of spending 4 to 5 years working on a feature animated film, not knowing if it's going to do well, and that's spending a lot of money and very risky. But if you're part of Disney and say a film doesn't do well, at least you have the theme park division to buffer against it, or you have a portfolio of films. So it didn't make sense to start an animation studio at that time, especially since the animation industry was mature in a way. There are so many different companies competing, so unless you have large amounts of capital or unfair distribution advantage, it didn't make as much sense to enter. So I joined Zynga instead in the gaming world because I was interested in new business models, and it was startups, and I loved startups because I had joined eBay when I was relatively young. I love startups because it's about new technology. There are no politics because there's no time to think about them because everyone's stressed out all the time. There's too much work to do. But I still wanted to be in entertainment. And I learned so much from Zynga. But nights and weekends, I still worked on animation on the short film The Dam Keeper, which was nominated for an Oscar last year, because I just couldn't stay away from animation because it's what I've always loved. And so when I tried on the VR headset for the first time, to be honest, I didn't like it. It was live action, and all I could notice was the poor resolution and the pixels, because our standards for reality are really high. So you expect it to be in high def. But when I put on a VR headset and saw my own game that we had created at Zynga hacked into the headset for fun, it was animated, and it was just the world. Nothing was even moving. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is the future of animation, because you have complete suspension of disbelief. You believe that that world is real, and you're not expecting it to look photorealistic. So you have that suspension of disbelief. So at that moment, I knew I needed to quit immediately and start my own animation studio, because VR and animation were made for each other. Because animation is art in motion, takes you to a completely different world. It makes you believe it's so real that you think you could reach out and touch it. That's the definition of VR, right? You're completely in that world. So from a creative level, it was perfect, but also from a business perspective, it made sense now because technology is leveling the playing field, because nobody has an advantage because it's new. Everyone needs to start from scratch. And that's when everything, my past, all actually helped. For the longest time, I'm like still not doing what I want yet in animation, but then suddenly it was helpful that I had gone to business school, because a lot of my business school classmates from Harvard were all now venture capitalists. So they really helped me through the VC funding part of my world. Meeting Eric was because of Zynga. So Glenn Entis, the co-founder of PDI DreamWorks Animation, was my mentor because he was consulting at Zynga at the time. He introduced me to Eric Darnell because he had hired Eric and Eric directed Ants and co-wrote and co-directed all the Madagascar films. So then Eric and I met, and we decided to form this. And Larry Cutler, my third co-founder, he was Pixar early days, also Stanford master's thesis in VR under Pat Hanrahan, realized it was way too early for VR in the 90s. So he was at Pixar, technical director on Toy Story 2 and Monsters, then went to DreamWorks to be global head of character tech, judge for Oscar Technical Achievement Award, co-founder of DigiPro. I met him because when I was deciding whether or not to go to business school, I emailed everyone in the Stanford alumni database, and he responded to me. And so from then, we kept in touch. So finding the co-founders to forming the company to finding VC funding is all because of my crazy background from eBay and business school and Zynga. It all ended up helping in one way or another. But and all the entire background in technology from eBay to Zynga really exposed me to the tech world and the VC world. So that really helped me get funding, because it's not traditional to get funding for content from VC, especially if you're not just pure games. So that experience definitely helped me. And the games background also helped me, because they're like, oh, you're from Zynga, you know how to make money and use data in a rational way. So that definitely helped us get the VC funding as well. He's retired, so when I saw him the first day, I'm like, you will become my mentor. And he's like, I don't know how much time I'm gonna have. I'm retired. He's like, my wife wants me home more. I'm like, I'm gonna become best friends with your wife. And so now we have our advisor meetings at Glenn's house in Pack Heights, which is amazing. And he introduced me to Alvy Ray-Smith, the co-founder of Pixar, who then also became our advisor. Alvy introduced me to Glenn Keane, who then became our advisor. Kevin Lin, I met through the gaming world, the co-founder and CEO of Twitch. So it just spanned out. And Lucasfilm, David Anderman, this former COO of Lucasfilm, he's responsible for Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm, because he's also general counsel. I know Lucasfilm people because when I was trying to email everyone in the Stanford alumni database, Vicki Beck at ILM was one of the ones who responded too. So even during business school, she helped me do a special independent project for Lucasfilm while I was at business school. So all those connections really helped me for my advisory board. And Mireille Soria is also on our advisory board, the co-president of DreamWorks, because she was a producer on all of Eric's Madagascar films. So it's just, it all came together. What I said earlier about being art in motion, taking you to a completely different world and making you believe it's so real that you think you could reach out and touch it. That is why I've been pursuing animation my entire life. I feel so much about society is conforming to values of fame, money, fortune, power, and definitely experienced that going through, HBS and climbing the corporate ladder. But during those 90 minutes of watching an animated film, or even playing Final Fantasy, say, or Ocarina of Time and Zelda, I believe that anything is possible, because even live action, you still feel constrained by reality, except for the special effects. But in animation, you're constrained only by the creativity within the director's head. And to me, that's freedom. And the fact that I can believe this completely imaginary world is real makes me believe that anything is possible, including my dreams. Every single time I watch animation, I'm like, I need to make animation now. I can do anything. My dreams can come true. And the mission of the company is to inspire that sense of wonder that you had when you were a 5-year-old kid and you believed you can do anything, as well as getting you to dream. And I think that can bring about world peace, honestly. If everybody could just, actually go after what they thought they could when they were 5 years old, I think people constrain themselves because of what society tells you can and can't do, and conforming you. So that is the ultimate mission of the company, because I think that's what animation does, and VR takes that to another level. To be honest, a lot of my VC friends told me to take that mission statement out of my deck because they felt it was very idealistic, but and the business school part. But I felt, if a VC is not going to fund me because of why I really want to start this company, then they shouldn't be my VC. So I insisted on keeping it in my deck. But that is the ultimate mission of the company. And again, VR allows you to do this in a way that traditional 2D film doesn't let you. It lets you to actually not only dream, but live that dream in a way. It brings your dream to life because you actually believe it's real when you're in there.